What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So, the other night, Disney Plus dropped the final episode of Daredevil Born Again, or at least of season one, I should say, on Disney Plus. I've had a chance to check out the entire season at this point, and I'm going to give my spoiler thoughts in just a second. Once again, that's spoiler-filled thoughts, so if you're not completely caught up with Daredevil Born Again, then I would recommend going, watching whatever episodes you need to get caught up on, and then come back and watch this video. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into this. Before I get started, though, quick point of reference: I adore the Netflix Daredevil series. I think season one is one of the best, I guess, first seasons to any Disney or not Disney Plus, but any Marvel show. Like it just really came right out of the gate swinging. Season two was a bit of a step down, but still a really great season for me. I feel like the stuff with the Punisher and Daredevil and that whole dynamic was great. Stuff with the Hand and Elektra wasn't the biggest fan of. And then you got season three, and season three is a masterpiece. It might be, and I guess I can technically call it MCU since they've canonized it now. Probably my favorite thing in the entire MCU. Like I rewatched the entire series fairly recently. Season three in particular, I watched like just about a month or two ago. It's wonderful. I just love the show so much. But yeah. So going into Born Again, I was a little concerned. It seemed like they kind of understood the characters and kind of what they needed to do, but I was just like, how dark is Disney actually going to make this show? And I'm happy to say, not only is in some ways this one of the darkest seasons of Daredevil yet, it's just really great. And it furthers these characters' journeys, their motivations, their struggles in such a great and meaningful way. Right off the bat, Charlie Cox, I mean, hasn't skipped a day as Daredevil. I mean, it's like season three finishes, and then it's like season four in the next month. It's just he's perfect as this character. He is one of those really like almost Robert Downey Jr. level characters at this point to where it's getting harder and harder to see anyone else in the role. I can't say it's impossible because we've obviously gotten Ben Affleck as Daredevil, but just he just brings such a gravitas to this role that it is just I love it. Like he's just very he manages to have like quips on occasion, but he also just does a really good job of being serious, being intimidating when he needs to be intimidating. He just has a commanding presence at every room that he walks into. Great actor, great character. And speaking of character, such an incredible character arc in this show. I mean, I would say outside of his character arc in season three, this might be my second favorite character arc that this man has, or that this character has gone through, I should say. I love the whole theme of not being able to escape your past and, basically, like, I'm just going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. It's a spoiler filled review. 10 minutes into this season, Foggy kicks the bucket. So, basically throughout the series, Matt's like, I'm gonna stop being Daredevil because I think it's what Foggy would want, and I just want to live my life as a lawyer, pursue my career, all of this stuff. And if you know Kingpin, which Vincent D'Onofrio again gives a wonderful performance as Wilson Fisk, as is expected. He becomes mayor of New York. So like both of these characters are trying to really step out of their comfort zone and really just be normal people. But I love the whole theme in the show, and especially as you get into, I believe it's episode six, where you really start seeing kind of their paths just converging once again. And this whole theme of, you can't escape your past. And, if you have an opportunity to stand up and do justice in an unjust world, do it. Just great themes. And you know me, I'm a themes guy. I've said it many times. So this stuff just really hit home for me, really resonated with me. Again, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio just have wonderful chemistry together. I mean, whether they're in a coffee table, just having a one-on-one conversation, just the dialogue, the just crisp, almost intellect between the two, just it just really shines in the series. Moving on, Ayelet Zur. I hope I'm saying her name right. I'm probably not, but she plays Vanessa. Remember, I don't know if y'all were aware or not, but she came this close to literally being ousted from the show and being replaced by another actress. And this is going to be more of a soft reboot. But, during the reshuffle and they got new showrunners and whatnot, and the same Vanessa actress came back from the Netflix show. And I'm so glad she did because she gives arguably her best performance as Vanessa. She really comes into her own in this show. I mean, in the past, it was really just she kind of followed behind Kingpin, kind of seeing the world through his worldview. But it's really this season to where I feel like she comes into her own. She plays a massive, and I mean a massive part in this show. And it's just overall really wonderful. Just great to see in terms of just, I think her dynamic with Fisk gets stronger. I think her dynamic with other characters gets stronger as a result. And yeah, for those of you wondering, this is by far the MCU's most brutal series yet. It's borderline in line with the Netflix show. Up until the finale, and you're gonna know what I'm talking about if you've seen the show, the infamous head crushing scene. I didn't think it was bloody, and it was by far the most bloody thing, dark and bloody thing that Disney's put out on their streaming platform under the Marvel banner. Yes, but it wasn't until that finale where I think between just the kills, again that infamous Punisher head crushing scene, that it really felt more in line with the Netflix show. It definitely has a very somber tone to it, and it really does feel like the best way I would describe this is it definitely feels like the Daredevil show of Netflix, but with a little bit of that kind of Disney feel to it. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, the way Netflix kind of films their shows, the way that they go about it, it kind of just feels like, I guess the best way to put it is, it kind of feels like a Netflix show. You're watching a Netflix show when you're watching Daredevil Netflix, and it feels like you're watching a really, really, really good Disney Plus show when you're watching Daredevil Born Again. I don't know. Y'all can tell me in the comments if y'all understand a word I just said, but that's the best way I can kind of describe my thoughts on kind of comparing this to the Netflix show in terms of just, the basic filmmaking or show making stuff. But yeah, moving on. Speaking of that, kind of going off that, I guess you could say, it feels very familiar, and the series also has, well, the series is definitely a familiar feel to it, which, is good, but it's also distinct. It also stands out. It also tells its own story. I mean, there's so many themes in this that we've seen time and time again in the show. Wilson versus Matt. Obviously, you got like corrupt cops, morality struggles, but the way that they present all of these themes, they do so in such a fresh and unique environment that we haven't really seen before, that really makes it stand out, that it doesn't just feel like, okay, we're seeing him go up against the same villain. We're seeing cops be corrupt again. We're seeing Daredevil struggle with should he kill somebody. It just, again, the way that the situations and environments that these themes play out in just feel so different than what we've seen before, while also feeling familiar. And I think that's honestly a win. That's what, whether it's a reboot, a continuation, whatever. I think when instead of just cheaply banking on nostalgia, something Disney's notorious for doing, this right here is exactly how you take care of that, in my opinion, and that you really kind of, give us something old but new. There you go. Like dabble in the old, but mostly give us new, and that's what they did here. Also, moving on, I got to talk about Bullseye. For those of you who have seen the first episode, which I really hope y'all have if you haven't already, especially if you've gotten this far in the review, obviously he's the one that kills Foggy. Of course, as the series progresses, you learn that he was kind of hired by Vanessa to take out Foggy, to put a hit on him. But this man is just, I mean, it's the same actor. I can't think of the name at the moment, but same actor that played in the Netflix show. I mean, he's arguably just as good, if not better, here than he was in the Netflix series. He is by far one of the MCU's just most disturbing, macabre antagonists. One that you pretty much wouldn't feel safe with at any given time. I mean, even when like you'll see him in scenes that he's like in handcuffs or like 10 guards around him, like you just don't feel safe with this dude, and you're like, something's about to go down. Also, I don't think I've ever seen quite as inventive of a. I don't think I've seen Teeth be involved with a murder the way that I did in this show involving Bullseye. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you know, you know. But yeah, going back though to the opening scene where Foggy dies, I think it might just be the most ballsy MCU move since the ending of Infinity War. I mean, the way that we see Foggy just in the first 10 minutes just get cold blooded murdered by Bullseye. Matt's chasing him. You get this incredible fight scene where it's like him and Matt on, walking up the stairway on top of this roof. And then Matt's just like, what? And like, as they're fighting, you hear from like Matt's point of view or Daredevil's point of view, you hear like Foggy's heartbeat just getting slower and slower. And you're like, oh no, they wouldn't, right? They wouldn't. And then, it just ends with he stops hearing his heartbeat and he grabs Bullseye and he's like, why would you do that? Why? And then like, he intends to kill him. It's something about which honestly I don't really buy, but like his vertebrae has some sort of like what he got at the end of season 3, if you remember that from the Netflix show, some sort of like metal spine or something. So somehow he doesn't die, but Matt intended to kill him. He failed, but that's just what he struggles with. And it was such a great way to open up this series. And, kind of talking about that stairway fight, the action is just brutal. It is so well choreographed. Not all the action is like Netflix level. We do get a few, like, kind of, the wide open, like, wide one shot fight scenes. A few of them, not a lot. But when they do happen, again, I'm glad that they kind of used it sparingly and they were like, every action scene is going to just have, the one shot. Like, it would have been cool, but I'm glad that they didn't go that route and that they actually kind of gave us a good variety of action scenes that really were all very well done, in my opinion. There's also quite a few MCU cameos and references that are really, really fun, but they use them very sparingly. They're not done in a way to where it's like like kind of like Homecoming, which I love Homecoming, but I'm just saying the same tactic I don't think would have worked as well in Born Again, where, literally every frame of this movie is covered in MCU Easter eggs here, there, everywhere. Characters are getting name dropped. It just wouldn't have worked as much. No one mentions Iron Man or Captain America living on the moon. There's like I think the Swordsman, Miss Marvel's dad, and a very fun episode in my opinion. They're in the show, and but again, it's used very sparingly, and it's not just kind of the in your face like what I feel shows and movies are notorious of doing like this when they get rebooted, when they get renewed, whatever, or revived, I guess you could say, where it's just really like in your face, like, oh, remember this, remember that. That's just not what this show does, and I really appreciate it. Last thing I'll say for the positives, there's a character who I want to say she's the daughter of Ben Urich, the reporter that Fisk kills, and I think it's like season one later on. So you kind of have these scenes where like you'll get a scene with Matt or whatever, and then or a scene with Kingpin, like when he becomes mayor or something like that. And then it'll be like BB Urich, her name is. She'll go around like recording people in New York, and I would say there's give or take about roughly one or two per episode. And it's just, you kind of get to see like the average New Yorker's opinion on, events going on, like Fisk getting elected as mayor, the trial between Hector Ayala and the stuff going on with Muse as well. It's just really fun to see and just kind of get that street like genuine street level perspective. Like we're gonna get a street level show. Let's see what the New Yorkers, let's see what the everyday people are thinking about all this stuff going around them. So I really liked it. It was a fun kind of addition to the series, and I hope we get more of that in season two. Moving on, however, to some things that weren't necessarily negatives for me, but were a bit mixed in my opinion. I do think this series would have worked better at being released all at once as opposed to week to week. I think there would have been less complaints about the lack of actual Daredevil that I've seen because outside of that opening scene, he doesn't really suit up until episode five or six, one of those. But it's like very deep into the series where you actually see him suit up as Daredevil again. And that's just kind of one of those things to where I think if you had a show to binge watch, kind of like with the first three Netflix seasons, I think that would have been lesser of a complaint because for me it didn't really bother me because what we got was still really entertaining. Like I love the whole Hector Ayala White Tiger trial. I just really like seeing Matt be Matt, kind of cultivating relationships, kind of dealing with loss and trauma, all that stuff. I mean, to me, that's what made like yes, Daredevil Netflix had some incredible action. Don't get me wrong about that. However, I do feel as though the best moments of Daredevil, and a lot of other fans would agree with me as well, were the quieter moments where you just really kind of, just had conversations like with certain characters. And that's definitely present here. And so for me, it didn't bother me as much, but I can certainly see why it would bother some people not to get Daredevil really until like over halfway through the season. The overall story structure too is one thing that I'm a little mixed on for sure. Like borderline almost a negative. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I enjoyed every episode. I either really liked or I really loved every episode of this season. But the way that the story structure kind of is, it's like I feel like they maybe overcrowded the first season, if that makes sense, because it's like, oh, like the first couple episodes are dealing with Matt and the fallout of Foggy's death. Then you get episodes three and four. This is Hector Ayala trial, and again, it's really good. One of the best court procedures I think from the season or from either this or the Netflix series. Really well done, really well crafted. Some great like philosophical stuff you could say for lack of a better term. So it just really worked. But then you get like episodes five through seven or something, and it's Muse, but they're still kind of dealing with the Hector Ayala stuff. And then you go to episode eight, and it's kind of back to the bullseye and the Foggy Nelson's death, and it just I don't know, it didn't really feel like. And I'm sure it has to do with the fact that this was retooled, it was reshuffled. From what I've heard, the current writers that did like episodes eight and nine, and then they kind of basically wrote the prologue of episode one where they brought back Foggy and Karen because apparently Foggy's death was going to happen off screen or whatever. So from what I've heard is that they brought that they filmed that first scene, but then everything else aside from some reshuffling and retooling here and there from like two to seven is kind of all the same, which like it's fine with me, but I certainly see why some people are going to get really annoyed with this. Like if you watch it week to week, it's not as bad, but when because I spent the last week just rewatching like an episode a day, and I really noticed it then. Also, episode five, it is a filler episode. Like it's a great filler episode, but it does feel just a little jarring, for lack of a better term. Like it really feels like because I mean, most shows have filler episodes, but this feels like it really pumped the brakes on the actual story to kind of just go to this bank heist or bank robbery, and Daredevil's trying to like work with, can't think of his name, but Kamala Khan's dad. It just, again, great episode. I'm not complaining that we got it, but it does feel just ever so slightly like it's just stalled the overall plot a little too much, in my opinion. But yeah, kind of moving on to the negatives. Um, we get nine episodes, which is more than, let's be real, the average Disney Plus show. But it still feels rushed. And kind of going off what I said earlier, the Muse storyline, what they heavily teased in the trailers, was going to be a pretty big part of the series. Again, it feels so rushed. He's really only in, like, I think he's mentioned in like episodes two or three or something. But outside of that, he's really only in the series for like two episodes. And it sucks because he's really great. Like, he's just really disturbing. I mean, if you know the guy from the comics or you've heard about it, or if you've heard people talking about him through the show, I should say, he's literally like draining the victim's blood, painting graffiti on like through New York with their blood. Like it's really disturbing. And I think the guy that plays him, can't think of his name, but he's just does a really great job of really just this tormented soul of like the scenes where he's talking to Matt's girlfriend, who's basically this counselor therapist, whatever you want to call him. Like it's really great scenes with him in it, and I think the guy does a really good job with kind of channeling this turmoil that the character has. He's just not really allowed to breathe, and he's wasted when Matt's girlfriend shoots him. And it's like, well, great. Like I've heard rumors that she may actually become using a follow up season, but still, I feel like we should have gotten at least a few more episodes with him in it. The Hector storyline in particular, again, really love the Hector Ayala stuff. I legitimately just screamed no at the TV when the cop in the Punisher outfit just came and shot Hector point blank, killing him on the spot. I was really shocked about that. But even that, it's just like two episodes, and it really had some great ideas about vigilantism and doing what's right, even if it's risking your life or it could cause you trouble. It's really good themes, really just overall great storytelling. But again, similar to the Muse arc, it just felt really rushed, in my opinion. And I do think maybe because it was originally supposed to be 18 episodes, I think it just, when the refilming, reshuffling, all this stuff happened, I do think that it probably had a major kind of I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, guys. I don't know the thought process, but if I had to guess, I think the fact that they refilmed and kind of reshuffled a lot of this stuff really kind of made some arcs just feel a little more disjointed or forced or however you want to put it. But yeah, I mean the remaining episodes could also be what season two is going to be. Maybe they'll go back and explore some of this. I don't know. This is just again more observation, but it is probably my biggest issue with this show is just that I'll they're kind of doing a little too much in terms of I think storytelling. Also, as we get to the finale, definitely stuck the landing with this one. Saw Punisher and Daredevil team up, which was awesome. The return of Karen, learning stuff about Vanessa, and basically confirming, yes, she put a hit on Foggy. Kingpin basically being like, kill all the vigilantes, getting his task force back in order. Just, overall, really great. Daredevil at the end saying he's going to put a team together. Absolutely awesome stuff. The ending, and again, this kind of harkens back to the 18 episode season that we were supposed to get. It feels unfulfilling. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for cliffhangers and all that, but the ending to this in particular just didn't grab me the way that I feel like it should have. It just felt like you're really getting invested, and as the story in the finale progresses, you're kind of just getting more and more into it, and it doesn't end on like a hardcore cliffhanger. It just kind of, put it this way, it ends like it's supposed to be the midpoint of a season, like where you kind of have that midpoint episode in a lot of shows that really just raises the stakes to the 11, and then maybe you'll have a down episode or two, and then it just skyrockets to the finale. That's exactly what this finale felt like. Again, it was amazing. I love the finale. I'm probably going to watch it again this weekend at some point. But I can't help but feel like, I just, I wanted more for a first season. I'm fine with cliffhangers. I'm fine with this and that, especially if you're going to renew it for a season two, which they're already filming it. It's coming out next March, apparently, from what I've heard. So, super excited for that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it just really felt to me like they didn't really know how to end the season on a proper cliffhanger, and I think it was just either they were running out of budget, whatever. It really does feel in a lot of ways like they just cut the season in half. But, this won't be a major problem once we get season two, and we'll have technically the first season at that point. But, just for now, I was a little unfulfilled when it was all said and done, but I was also highly satisfied. And, just in conclusion, at the end of the day, I did love this show, guys, if you couldn't tell. I mean, I have a lot of positives to say about this. Yes, I feel like it's a little overcrowded and they're trying to do too many plot points at once. But I mean, Mew should have been a whole season. I'm sorry. Wait till season two or three if you want, but Mew should have had his whole season. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, that aside though, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio's dynamic is amazing. The action is brutal and just as violent as you would hope for. I think the story is compelling. I love how they incorporated so many themes like, the corrupt cops using the Punisher's logo. One of my favorite lines actually from the Punisher, and they say in the show a lot better than I'm going to paraphrase here, but when the task force takes him captive at the end of the or during the finale. I love the part where he basically calls them out on that and he goes, you don't have a right to wear that, basically. He's like, you don't know what I've been through, you don't know what I've seen. It was just such great writing. I mean, my guys, we got peak writing back in the MCU. Like, so happy. But yeah, overall, great episode of TV. I think I'm gonna it's debating between an 8 and 8 and a 8.5. I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10. It gets an extra point just because seeing Punisher and Daredevil back in that finale was just so satisfying. And yeah, I mean, again, it's not perfect. I don't think it's as good as season three. I don't think it's even as good as season one. Season two might be questionable just because, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Elektra arc, but I loved the Punisher stuff. So it might be better than season two, but I definitely don't think it's quite on that same level of season one or season three. But all that's to say, guys, when it's all said and done, it's still a worthy successor to the Netflix show. It's still a fantastic season of television. It's still a fantastic Marvel project in its own right. And if you haven't watched this show, guys, and for some reason you've watched like, what, 25 minutes now of a spoiler filled review, obviously go watch it. Like, erase everything I said from your memory and go watch it. Have a great time. Tell your friends about it. I really hope it does well on Disney Plus, and I really hope we get more seasons going forward. But yeah, that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, though. What did you think about Daredevil Born Again? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What's like your favorite season of Daredevil? Because yes, this is technically a continuation, so it's basically a season four of the Netflix show. But yeah, just, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. And as always, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and I will catch you all. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see more, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and check out my other videos in the link in the description down below. And I will see you all later.